Welcome back, and in this segment we will be talking about medical tourism and Egypt in light of the conference which was held in Sharm el-Sheikh between the 23rd and the 25th of this month for promoting medical tourism in the country. And we're joined right now by Dr. Hisham el-Ghazaly, and he is a professor of oncology as well as head of the research center at the Ain Shams University. Good afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Welcome.
So it's definitely a very exciting and interesting topic to be speaking about. Medicine, touristic medicine, and there is a lot of aspects. In Egypt, there is a lot of hidden places. We would call it treasures of Egypt, where a lot of people would visit for meditation and different types of medical use. So if you can explain to us at the beginning an overview about this, industry in Egypt, how is it developing, what are the sources of, medical tourism?
Actually, it is a very important event that gave like a highlighting of Egypt as not only a touristic area, but also a medical area that attract the people from the region, from Africa, and even from South Europe. And usually when the important items in the conference is how to gather and attract the people. Some important statistics there. I think Sheikh Bandar ibn Sultan giving highlights about that $27 billion from the Arab and Gulf area spending in the medical tourism, all of them outside the Arab region. Unfortunately, if you see the Wikipedia, you don't find Egypt in the map of the medical tourism. So it is very important to highlight Egypt as a medical touristic area, especially that we have already a lot of treasures, not only the pyramids and the Nile and all of these, but also a very good hospitals and a very good doctors and a very good medical service. But how to gather the people and to go for merging this touristic activity and the medical part. And one of the important items in my lecture that even the medical service expenses is very, very cheap in comparison to the others. So I go for table for comparison between USA, UAE, and Jordan, and Egypt. Even in diagnostic procedure, like what's called in oncology what's called PET scan, positron emission tomography, some of the radiological tools to diagnose cancer. The cost in UAE is about $3,000, while it is in Egypt only $250. So the patient can come to Egypt and go for diagnostic procedure and go to visit pyramids, to go in the hotel and his all companies to stay in Egypt and do this medical service and go home. And so it is important to go for marketing. Also, there is a lot of points for weakness and points of strength in medical tourism in Egypt. The points of weakness mainly is the fragmentation, marketing, not joining the other, trying to join the medical service to the touristic activity, going for mapping and advertising of this. A lot of like roadmap must be go for roadmap to go for these steps, step by step to publish this medical touristic activity.
Well, I see also that nursing is a big issue in Egypt. We have perfect doctors, very good doctors in Egypt, and we have very nice and clean hospitals and spas, but I think that we have an issue with nursing.
Yes, we have issue in nursing, and so one of important parts also in my presentation is accreditation. So anyone in the world, even in oncology, the first thing searching about is how to be cured. So he will search firstly not for the cost, but for the medical service. He will be cured in this place or not. How this achievement and the accreditation and the health system, the quality of the health system in this place. If it is good, either by all the items, by the doctors, the nursing, and everything, So he will travel and cross the border to come to Egypt, either from Africa or from the South Europe or from the Gulf area. And the nursing is very important part, and I think there is a lot of like plans for improvement of the nursing quality. One of the important things that our hospitals now trying to go for accreditation, international accreditation called the GCI. And also we have in Egypt cancer centers, private cancer centers that have the European accreditation. We have now 5 European accredited cancer centers, 4 private and 1 governmental, 3 in Cairo and 2 in Alexandria. So it is important now to publish this. No one knows this. So it is important to going to the...
To spread the word.
Yes.
Yes, I think, one of the challenges of the medical tourism or attracting more medical tourism to Egypt is knowing about the service, the awareness, the choosing, being able to choose or select what is useful, like you mentioned, knowing the prices and knowing the competitiveness. What is lacking today in order to have this in place?
The fragmentation. We have a fragmented service and a fragmented plan. If we can go for augmenting this activities, either in the hospital, the marketing, the touristic, all of them under the one umbrella, it is very, very important to achieve.
So it means also an entity by itself that is merged between different ministries. This is what you're trying to say.
This umbrella, I think, will help a lot. So we can go for one umbrella. So if I will go to Nigeria or to Sudan or to Yemen or to every place, so I have an entity or organization or something that it is officially talk to people and asking them to come. And this organization, not governmental. It is important to gather all the factors, all the people from private sector, governmental sector, all this industry, which is, I think, maybe more important than the leisure tourism. So the medical tourism, the patient usually pay a lot to go to hell to have a cure, firstly, and then the other things.
Now, I'm quite interested in the conference itself. It had 5 sessions, 9 workshops. Would you tell us more about these sessions and some of the important and interesting workshops?
I think it was very important, but I think the most interesting for me...
What was interesting to you?
Yes, for me, I think the most interesting is the oncology session, because I'm an oncologist, and also the virus C workshop, because we have a success story in virus C cure, and also the most cheap drug in worldwide is in Egypt. So this initiative of Tour and Cure and a lot of activity and bringing like famous stars in Egypt, I think it is very, very important. And it is important also to talk to others, not to talk to ourselves. So it is very important to go to others. I have the honor to meet His Excellency, the Ambassador of Nigeria. And we have a relation somehow. And he told me that's important because the Nigerian people now going to India instead of Egypt. So it is important why they will go to India, because we have some problems in visa. So it is important to have...
To know the blockers.
Yes. So it's important to have this organization that help in Ministry of Health, Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
With the support of embassies. Too.
Yes. So it is very, very important to know all the factors, all the important issues that help the people to come easily, stay short time, pay small amount, not to ask them to pay a lot. So you have, if you improve this industry, you have a lot to have in Egypt. Especially we have a huge number of hospitals all over Egypt, not only in Cairo, but also in Alexandria, in Sharm el-Sheikh, in Tor, in Hurghada, in Guna. So you can go for mixing this. Yes. And also you must have marketing plans, like my team going for giving chemotherapy beside the sea, or going for marathon in front of the pyramids, or coming with a famous star and going in Abu Simbel. You know, the October is the breast cancer month. So, and also in October you have in Abu Simbel the sun going to...
You can blend these together.
Yes. So you can join this and that, and giving the world, all the world to come to Egypt and join this and that.
Well, in terms of oncology, how is medical tourism going now? Because I understand that usually Egyptians, when they are really, really sick and they can afford it, they go to places like Paris, or they go to Germany or the UK, and especially Paris in particular. Yeah. There is a big hospital there for cancer. So are we ready for such a competition, and how far are we doing?
So usually all people in the south going to the north. So we have also people in the south. We have the Nigerian, the African people. So there is a lot of, I'm going for a map of the world in my lecture, and giving like arrows why people crossing the border coming to Egypt. So it is from Russia and all these area, they can come to Egypt because of the weather. We have a very good weather in comparison to Russia, and also a very good hospitals. In the African people, you know, that radiotherapy in cancer, treatment of cancer, we have a very, very meticulous and perfect machines. It is not available in the Africa. And also the cost of the what's called IMRT, which is intensity modulated radiotherapy. It is some technique of radiotherapy which is very, very meticulous and perfect. The cost of this radiotherapy in Paris is about 6,000 euro. And in Egypt is also only about 2,000 euros. So this difference is very attractive to the people, especially if the same quality. So the availability of these services that help the people coming from Africa to Egypt is important. One of the important factors also is the language barrier. So the Arab region, it's important for them to come to Egypt. They will be happy to do so, because have their family, they can go, there is no language barrier, so they can come to Egypt for this. And also we have a language barrier between the French-spoken African countries, so it is important to have a French section in our hospitals to help the people to come to Egypt.
So I really admire the philosophy of, you know, the blend, and how you are looking at a different entity that should be combining, you know, or joining forces in order to meet this objective. What about the presence in Arab countries? You know, if this entity established an ongoing presence, because, you know, traveling and having certain events and then leaving sometimes is not as effective as being there all year round.
Yes, I think it is also an important issue. If you have a huge plan, so I think one of the most important items in the plan is to go for satellites in these areas. So you can go for satellites in the African countries, in Arab countries, in Russia, in South Europe. I think it is very, very effective to have like a face-to-face and to know how you are effective in treating people.
You mean satellite offices?
Yes, satellite offices, but with a special and already perfect plan. So nothing hazy, everything is perfect, and so it helps.
So I can find out the prices of the medical services, the locations, you know, bundles with packages.
Packages is very important, not to come to Egypt and then to find this is very, very expensive. No, we have a special package for the surgery and everything. You know, the cosmetic surgery in France, like you say, it is very, very expensive. In Egypt, it's more and more cheap. You know, now there is a lot of surgery for the obesity, especially in the Arab region, which is outside the insurance. So in Egypt, it's more and more cheap. We have a lot of Arabians coming to Egypt for this obesity surgery. So it is important to publish this, to go for organization for this, to be not like fragmentation. The problem in Egypt is fragmentation. Everyone going for personalized activity, not an organized activity.
Yes.
Well, in Egypt we have a lot of natural resources. We have the spas and the natural wells. We have the sand where, for instance, in Aswan they do almost burying themselves in the sands as a therapeutic measure. We have some of also the wells the Cleopatra bath and other in the area of Sinai. Now, how can we utilize these to create medical centers?
I think it is away from my specialty, but I think there is workshop.
And is it feasible for oncology in that term, like if I'm being treated from cancer, that I'll be enjoying any of these sites and have a small center?
Yes.
Especially, I feel that actually cancer treatment is hard because once you're on the chemotherapy, you have fits of things. Like you could lose your hair, you can become diabetic, the blood pressure sometimes is unstable, nausea. So is it still feasible that a person taking or undertaking chemotherapy would be able to do other activities as well?
Yes, because it is the bad image about the chemotherapy. It is not like this usually. We have now a lot of chemotherapy that's not affecting the hair. They have a lot of targeted therapy and immunotherapy. So we have a huge, it is not a scientific
because I had a personal experience with some of my relatives. It was like that, but that was years ago.
Yes, but now we have a lot of advances in treatment of oncology, but still we have some sort of hair loss. So we now have what's called the ice cap machines trying to help to decrease the possibility of hair loss. But also, one of the important parts in treatment of cancer is what's called the palliative care. Palliative care when there is no possibility of cure of cancer, so we can go for rehabilitation or palliation in some areas, like you said, in Aswan, in Sharm el-Sheikh, in Guna, to have a leisure and try to help the people in this part of their life.
Yes, can you tell us a little bit about the medicinal herbs workshop that was highlighted in St. Catherine?
It is
interesting location also.
Yes, it is very, very, very important because it is important part of even the drug discovery. I am the head of research center in Ain Shams University, and we are starting this era, trying to go also for networking, to go for collaboration with other universities inside Egypt and outside Egypt. And then you must go deeply in your environment to see what you have. So in Spain, they're going to the marine and going for the plant in the marine to try to go for new drugs. And now we have in Sinai, we have a lot of plants and herbs that may help in treatment of many diseases. But it is not scientific to go rapidly to go this conclusion. It must be in clinical trial, preclinical trial, and then clinical trial, and then the drug discovery by itself maybe have a huge income for this country.
Well, Dr. Hisham Al-Ghazali, Professor of Oncology and Head of the Research Center, thank you very much for this interview. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
And now we will be going out to a quick break, and then we'll be back with more on Now Curious. So stay with us.